Hello everyone, my name is Erez and I'm the CTO of EnsureDR. In this short technical demo, I'm going to show you how EnsureDR works and a short demo of the product. First thing I want just to talk about protecting the data. Protecting the data is very tough, but recovering is even tougher. The current product out there, such as backup solution and disaster recovery solution and replication solution, are all about moving your data to a local backup repository or to a disaster recovery site in the cloud. So their main point is moving your data consistently and very well from your production servers to the DR site. And they are doing that very, very well between the sites. So when you try to recover your data, there may be some issues that you can encounter, such as defective servers, problem in your networks, problem in your application. And most of the problems are basically occurred because there is inconsistency and incompatibility between the sites. The production site is like a live organism, always changing, and the DR site is more of static. Now, the big question that I always have from my customers is basically, how can I know for sure that I can recover in a crisis? So for that, we've got EnsureDR. EnsureDR is really all about answering this question. So EnsureDR is basically constructed out of two servers that you install in your disaster recovery or your production site. EnsureDR actually communicate with your data mover and generate automatic test of your infrastructure. Inside an isolated environment, our EnsureDR controller and engine test the server's ability to recover in case of disaster. Our external EnsureDR server basically tests all the rest of your environment that is not a virtual environment, such as physical server, infrastructure, firewall, storages, branch offices, internet connectivity, and other, resulting basically to a dashboard that will tell you all year long how resilient are you, that is basically construct of the test that we are conducting to your environment. EnsureDR is support multiple of data movers in the cloud and on-prem to give you full solution to your environment. It doesn't matter if you got VMware environment, Azure environment, NetApp environment, Zerto replication, we support them all to give you one big solution. So let's look on the product. So basically I've got here a VMware environment with multiple VMs. Some of them are Windows, some of them are Linux, replicating to our DR site. So basically I've got here a Zerto application, and I've got here vSphere application, and I've got here SRM that control the failover. You can see here the placeholder shadow VMs that are waiting for the failover inside the DR site. We install EnsureDR over here inside a virtual Windows over here. This is EnsureDR, and also we've got another server that we call EnsureDR controller that is a proxy server that we actually move to the isolated environment to do the test of the failover. So let's log into EnsureDR. So this is the EnsureDR. This is the main dashboard of EnsureDR. Over here you can see main applets that can show you, first of all, your recovery readiness score. This score is based on a smart algorithm that collect all the tests that we conduct along the year. EnsureDR run test to your environment on a daily basis, weekly basis. You can just create your own schedule for the test, fully automatic test. So basically over here you see your recovery readiness score that present your total readiness to the DR site. As I mentioned, based on the tests themselves, based on the time to recover, based on your resources. So there is a lot of measurement inside this specific test. In this applet, we can see the recovery time. Out of 4 hours, going to take us 24 minutes. So it's very important. In this specific gauge, we can see how much time it's going to take us to recover in a real disaster case. On the right side, we can see actually the devices that we test, virtual machine, physical machine. If you got also physical domain controller, virtual DCs, you can actually change this sampler to suit your devices in your organization. Over here, we can see the list of the current job that ran and what are the outcomes. If we have replication between sites, we can actually pinpoint over here my production site replicate to the DR site. And over here, we've got our test score history over time. We can see that we got a good improvement from a few days ago that we actually fixed some problems in the DR site. On the left side, we can see that my environment. So as I mentioned, I've got Zerto in my environment, VMware VC replication, vSphere replication, and VMware SRM in my environment. So let's look at the jobs. Basically, as I mentioned, you can create a job based on your application group, recovery plan inside SRM, VPG inside Zerto, period site. So basically, you can take, for example, a recovery plan, and out of that, pick few servers that you want to test in this environment. So we can see all of my jobs. If I mark one of my jobs, I will get on the right side a quick preview of the latest test result. Basically, 1 day ago, the test result was 88%, 10% better than last time. It took just 20 minutes to do the full process. And we can see here the main steps of the process: data collect, failover, device test, snapshot if applicable, and the cleanup that we are doing in the end. As I mentioned, this is a recurrent automatic job that you can run manually, but it's basically, we can set a schedule for it. Over here, we can see the test overview, how many tests we conduct in this specific environment. We conduct power on test, network, service, custom, database, web portal inside this environment, and a very nice boot process animation that we capture as evidence that the servers were powered on, up and running, worked correctly. And basically, you can actually find some interesting stuff regarding the boot process. We see here in a lot of customers, we see black screen, blue screen, Windows update that run for hours. So it's very interesting to see that as evidence of the server that was up and running. If I press on full report, I will see the full report of this specific test. We tested only virtual machines. We can also see a nice preview of the DR resources and the consumptions of the DR resources while doing the test. And I can see that I'm basically overcommitting my RAM. From CPU perspective and IOPS, it's quite okay. If I scroll more down, I can see the list of servers that I tested with the boot process. I can see that I've got 11 servers that were fine, just one server that got issues. A very interesting capability that we've got called Autofix. For example, on this specific server, it's a database server. We tested the database and we tested the service. Now, I know that the service over here, it's the MS SQL service that we tested. So if I press on it, I can see that the Autofix actually detected that the service was bad. It tried to start it and tested it again. And we can see that the test was fine. And since he started the SQL Server service, the database test was fine also as a result of that. So basically, EnsureDR was built for medium and enterprise customers. You can see over here the search capabilities. If you've got hundreds or thousands of servers that you are testing, you can also go for the thumbnail preview, and you can sort the servers per device, physical, branch office, virtual machine, and any other device that you want to sort. If we jump to the failed, we can see that over here we've got one server that was failed on just on the service and the custom test. If we press on it, scroll down, we can see a little bit details about that test. Basically, it got a bad user and password, and that's why it wasn't able to basically test custom test and the service test over here. To build a new job, we can press on the plus sign over here, and over here we can choose which data mover out of the list that we support. We support replication solution, we can support backup solution, and we can support Azure solution. So for this specific demo, I will choose the VMware with the SRM. So creating a job is very easy. It's a construct of 4 steps. The first steps is the basic setting. In the basic settings, I need to provide EnsureDR the basic information to choose my job. First of all, we got the test workflow over here. We can see here the list of tests that the list of steps that we can choose. We can basically, for example, choose that we do not want to clean up the environment since we want only the failover to run in the test, and then we want to do some manual testing, user experience tests and stuff like that. So you can choose which one of these tests you want to enable in this specific job. You can choose the name of the job over here, and then you can choose all the, need to set all of your environment, the IP addresses of your environment. It's also, we have here autocomplete since we already set up a test before. The main user for the Windows test and the main user for the Linux test in this specific environment. I just will provide a license key. Right, so I provided here a license key, and now I can hit next and go to the second stage. In the second stage, I need, first of all, to set up my network mapping. Which network in my environment will be my management network in the DR side, and which one will be the bubble isolated. So as I mentioned, we are failing over the environment to an isolated bubble network. So we won't have any duplicate names or split brains or duplicate IPs and stuff like that. I need to choose my EnsureDR server, and I need to choose my EnsureDR controller server that will be our proxy into the bubble, into the isolated environment for testing. And also we have the ability to control domain controller. So there is 2 options. The first option is that we're going to use a domain controller that was replicated with the replication solution, or we're going to take one of the domain controller that actually located in the DR site, and we're going to clone it into the bubble network. So we'll have there an Active Directory and a DNS for all of our tests. So in this case, I'm going to choose that I have a domain controller in my site. I'll hit next. And in this screen, basically, I need to set up my tests. So we have here on the left side, our default test that we actually inherit to all of the servers. There's the power on test, the network test, we're just going to ping all the servers inside the bubble environment, service test, and custom commands. So you can actually edit the service test and choose, for example, the net logon that we're going to test for all of those servers, and a custom script, a WMI query, and an output that we are expecting to get from the WMI query in this specific test. And this test will, as I mentioned, will run on all the servers we're going to choose. So in the middle, we're going to see the 3 recovery plan that we detected inside my SRM environment, and I can open and see all of the servers inside of them. Some of them are Linux, some of them are Windows. So I can just going to choose few servers that I want to test as part of this specific test, move it to the right, and they got automatically the 4 default tests that we actually set up here on the left: the power on, the network, the service, and custom. Now, the nice part is that basically I can edit each of those tests right here from this screen. For example, I can turn off the custom test for this specific server, or I can double click and set it up and change it to a different test. For example, in this specific service test, I can change it to event log service, for example, and it was changed only for this server. Now, there is another way to edit. You can press on that and edit that, all of the tests from here, but you can add some more tests. For example, you can add database tests and edit it from here. You can do a SQL service query to a specific database inside the server and test the database over here. You can do a web portal test for this specific server and test it over here. And you can see that I added 2 more tests to that specific Windows server in here. Now, when I hit next, I can see my summary. I chose to test my SRM, 2 recovery plans, 27 tests on 5 different devices. I can see that I've got my email that was already set up, that I will get the report. And also I can set up here my schedule that will run automatically this test and will fail over the environment, test the environment, clean up, and then generate a report. So I can save it, just save it. And when I go back to the test over here, so as I mentioned, with EnsureDR, you can basically create your own test to your environment. And with EnsureDR, you can make sure that you can really recover in case of disaster, since EnsureDR will run your test to your recovery plan, to your DR site, to your backup environment, fully automatic, test your environment, check that everything okay, not just the failover procedure, but also from application perspective, test your application, test your services. You can run any custom script in any server to test your environment. EnsureDR will generate a report and send it to you by email. So that you can see here the mini preview of one of the tests that ran. You can see the full report, and you can see also an email report that I will show you right now. Here is the email report that you can get, and you can see a small preview of the test that we conducted, and also you can see over here an offline report, HTML-based, with the same test results that you saw online, but this time it's fully offline, and you can actually send this report to other colleagues in your environment without actually logging to your environment. So to summarize EnsureDR technical benefits, we provide full automation to your testing, to your backup and disaster recovery environment that will test all your devices, do a full DR cycle, failover, test environment, cleanup, generating a report. Also, we've got automation around auto-fixing problems that we find inside your environment and reporting back to you about that. We have we are actually measuring your actual RTO, recovery time objective. We measure that and give you your actual time to recover in case of real disaster. We have our boot proof and evidence with the boot animation imprint in our disaster recovery report. We support multiple vendors. So in one solution, you can work with multiple vendors inside your environment with the common data movers out there. And we support our dashboard with our disaster recovery readiness score and a very good look of your resource. So I want to thank you with that. Any questions that you got, you can email me to eras@ensuredr.com. Thank you very much for listening.